how was it the week after you had London, like adjusting to motherhood? The week after was pretty crazy. The first 2 months actually, because Joe was working a lot. Like he was working 50 to 60 hours a week. After London was born, he stayed home. She was born like a Tuesday, and he went back to work that Monday. So it was really just me taking care of her, and she got colic when she was 2 months old. So that was, you know, adjusting to everything for the first 3 months, 4 months was really, really, really difficult for me. And because I never grew up in a house with babies. Like, I have a younger brother and younger sister, but they live in a different city than me, in a different state than me. I didn't grow up with them full time. I went and we saw them a couple times a year. So it was a huge, huge undertaking, and it was really scary, and I really was like, I was not ready for this. I was not ready for this. I'm not a good mom. I don't know what I'm doing. It was really, really, really overwhelming. And then not having him there, and I hate asking for help. So I think maybe I called my mom like once and told her that I needed her to come over so I could get like an hour to myself maybe. I hate asking for help. I hate asking for anybody to watch her. I hate asking for anything, you know. I hate it, and I don't do it, and that's part of the problem that Joe and I have, is because he feels like I don't communicate, you know, how I feel about things. And I never said I need help. I never said I'm scared. I never said I'm having trouble. I never said any of that. So, and I probably should have now, you know, in retrospect, I should have said something, and I should have been honest, and I shouldn't have been scared, and I shouldn't have felt like a failure, because that's how I felt. And it was really scary. It was a scary feeling for me, because I've never been in that kind of position before. Okay, so another question was your daughter a planned baby? So no, not at all. So like I said, I went to the doctor, and the doctor said you're 6 weeks pregnant, and she guesstimated that she was conceived between July 3rd and July 7th. And we were in Las Vegas because it was 4th of July was on a Friday or something like that. So, you know, not planned at all. At all. At all. So, now this is about childbirth, and someone asked, she wanted to know if I had an epidural or a natural childbirth. I got the epidural, absolutely. She would also like to know about my labor experience. Okay, so I went into labor, she was a week early, and it was kind of strange. We live right around the corner from Kaiser, so we actually had walked to Kaiser that morning to go get Joe's son some medicine because he had a runny nose. So we walked, and to get through to the pharmacy is fastest to walk through the labor and delivery. So I'm walking down the hall, and you know, this nurse comes by, and she's like, oh, you must have got the memo, lots of women are going into labor today. And I was like, that's funny. And Joe's like, no, we're not going to labor, we're just coming to get some medicine. And I was like, yeah, definitely not. And on the walk back home, as we were walking up the hill, I started getting really bad cramps. And I had kind of been getting some cramps all throughout the morning. I thought they were the Braxton Hicks contractions that I had never had. So I'm assuming, you know, it's close to labor time, I'm starting to get those pre-contractions, and I'm assuming that's what it is. And I came home, and it was starting to get much more intense. They were much closer together. So I went upstairs and I laid down, you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm telling Joe it's really bad, like it really hurts. You know, I think it's happening. And he's like, no, I don't think so. I think it's just the pre-contractions. So as time goes on, you know, they're getting bad. I take a bath. I sit in the bath, you know, and we'd walked to the hospital probably about 11:30, and so I was getting them all throughout the day. They got progressively worse around 5 o'clock. That's when I went and got in the bath, and I was like, this is serious. And then after I got in the bath, I was laying down. I called my mom, and I told her that I think it might be time. And then Joe started timing my contractions, and I was having them every 5 minutes, every like 3 minutes, I think that's what it is. I can't remember. Whatever the time frame, 3 to 5 minutes, that's what I was having. And so I called my mom because Joe had to stay with his son because his mom was going to come down and stay here at the house with his son because we weren't going to bring him to the hospital while I was going to labor. So I called my mom, and she was like, okay, I'm on my way, I'm coming. And she comes to the house, and I'm laying in the bed, and as soon as the door closes of her walking in the house, my water breaks. So I'm like, definitely time. So we go to the hospital, and they check me in, and it was taking forever because, like the lady had said earlier, tons of people were going into labor. So I think there were 8 or 9 women going into labor, which is a lot. It's a lot. They checked me in. I'm waiting for a really long time. It took a while for them to actually check me. I got checked in at like 7. They didn't actually check me till about 7:45. So, okay. So I go, and I'm waiting in the waiting room, and she checks me, and she was like, "You're 6 centimeters." And I was like, "Oh my God." And at this time, it's getting really, 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 really intense. And I never had cramps whenever I had my period before. I never had cramps. So when everyone's like, it's like really intense cramps, I'm not really knowing what that's like because I've never had cramps. So, wow, cramps. I don't even think that describes it at all. But it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced. So I get into my actual room, they admit me, the doctor comes in, checks me again, and she's like, "You're 7.5. I dilated probably in about 20 minutes, almost to 8 centimeters. So she was like, "Do you want the epidural?" Or no, I wasn't almost 8. Maybe I checked in at 5, and then I was 6 by the time I went into the room or something like that. So then she said, "Do you want the epidural?" And I said, "Absolutely." I got the epidural, and like right away, it was so much more calm. And by 12, I think, the nurse came back in and checked me, and she was like, "You're fully dilated," but I didn't feel the urge to push. So she came back in 45 minutes later and was like, "All right, we're having a baby." But again, I'm not having the urge to push at all. Like, I feel fine. So, I pushed maybe 6 times, and she was born in 45 minutes from the time I started pushing to the time that she was delivered. And she was huge. And then afterwards, I was having, like the next day, I was having issues with bleeding. So they kept me under watch from the doctor to make sure that I wasn't getting any blood clots or having any excessive bleeding to where I'd have to go and get surgery done to stop the bleeding. So that stopped, and then London had jaundice, so she was in the hospital for another 6 days. I got to stay with her, luckily, to breastfeed. So we were in the hospital for like 6 days after she was born, because she had jaundice, and then her jaundice levels went down. But it was not as horrible as I had expected it to be. I always expect the worst, always. So then I'm always surprised or happy when something better happens, which I don't really know is the best way to go about things. But that's always how I've been. So I was expecting labor and delivery to be horrible. I was expecting this pressure that people keep talking about to be like the most indescribable pain ever. And it really is just, it's pressure that hurts, but it's not as bad as I had expected. I don't know how women do it all natural, because going through those contractions alone without any of the drugs was unbearable. That was the worst part. And for that reason, for the last month of me being pregnant and going into labor, I would never want to be pregnant again. Never. And never, ever again do I ever want to get pregnant again. I don't think I could handle it physically or emotionally or psychologically, honestly. So that's my Q&A, your questions, my answers. I hope this was helpful. I hope I answered your questions. And labor is an amazing, amazing experience. Like, every single time I look at London, I think, "You were in my stomach," and then I say something a little off color, you know, in terms of me giving birth. But it's amazing. It's amazing to look at her and to think I created her inside of me, that my body is capable of growing a person and producing everything that she needs to survive, like the milk and everything like that. It's surreal, and for that I'm very thankful to be able to experience that. I'm just very happy that I was able to carry a child, but I would never want to do it again. Never. But it was amazing. It was definitely amazing, and the most incredible thing that I'll probably ever go through in my life, considering this is never going to happen again. And I love her very, very much, and she means the world to me. So that's all. See you guys later.